All right, well, it's 6 o'clock. We have quorum, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the school building committee meeting. It is Thursday, November 16th, 2023. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be rebroadcast. I know we don't have any public comment. Let me pull my agenda back up in my opposite screen, so we can move right along from that. Let's see here. So, Margaret, we're going to be reviewing next steps from the last meeting or other additional notes, checking on actions from last meeting. And then, I guess we're going to vote on the minutes in the beginning. Okay. So, if everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I think that was Soto on the second. All right, all those in favor, if you can raise your physical or digital hand, please, and hold it so that I think Margaret is counting. So thank you so much.
I see a unanimous vote.
All right, great. So we have some important things that we're going to be going over tonight that we do need formal votes on. One is proposed proprietary language, and then delegating authorities. So I'll turn it over to Margaret to explain those things and review those things, and then we can take them up one at a time. So we'll go over the proprietary stuff first.
Yeah, and actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to just start with the schedule, just to kind of ground everybody. I think it's good to kind of know where we are, and then we'll take those two items up, and then we'll go to later other updates, because we do want to have the votes while we have everybody here. So let me just share my screen. Assuming that my screen will let me share. Okay, so lots going on. This is, hopefully the format of this is becoming somewhat familiar and is useful. So I'm going to just shrink this a little bit so that it fits on the page. So this is linked in the minutes if you want to look at it on your screen, but where we are right now, so we're kind of done with the MSBA, so to speak, in the sense that we don't have any further reviews with them. We have to submit 100% the bid documents to them, and that's coming at the end of the month. And they'll review, and probably not any comments, but they do sometimes provide some comments that will get wrapped in to the bidding. The consultant team is just super busy right now. We're sort of just yesterday got all the list of everyone who is pre-qualifying on the project, and we'll give you an update on that. Construction documents are going out to bid at the end of the month. Then we have first the pre-qualified subs bidding, and then the general contractor bids. So by mid-January, we'll have all the bids back. Permitting, the demolition is going full tilt. We'll have an update on that. Site plan review appeal period is ending just before Thanksgiving, so that's good. We'll sort of wrap that process up. And then as far as this group, here we are meeting tonight. We are not going to have any meetings in December, which I think is going to be fine, because we'll be able to give you written updates on these other activities that are going on. It is a crazy busy month, but we are planning to have a meeting on January 18th, at which time we'll have the bids back. So we'll be able to kind of fill you in on all of that. So that's kind of a big milestone there. Design review, we're going to be looking at the final construction documents as soon as they're available, and then the early package meetings are going on. In fact, they'll probably wrap up about the time, those weekly meetings will probably be wrapping up in early January. So I'm going to stop sharing that. So the things that we're going to take up first, tonight are these two things that need to be voted on. So one of them is something called a delegated authority matrix. So this is something that we do, which helps everybody understand who's responsible for contract changes. So we've had, partly because this project has moved so fast, we've had actually very few contract changes. But once you get into construction, it's kind of typical to have some contract changes. They can be in the form of changes to the consultant contracts, or they can be in the form of changes to the construction contract. So what I'm going to show you has been previously reviewed with the mayor and Anthony, and we think that this is a good approach, but we think it's also a good idea for you all as the committee to endorse how we're approaching this. And in a nutshell, I will tell you that what we're doing for all practical purposes is we're delegating to Carl Rossi as the head of DPW, to Sean as the member of this committee and the person in charge of building maintenance for the city, and to Jamie as the procurement officer, to be the group with whom we review changes. And they will, with us, basically what will happen is the design team and ourselves, in the case of a construction change order, will review, will make a recommendation to this group. They will sort of look at it and pressure test it, and then it will be recommended for signature to the mayor. Now, what they will then be turning around and doing sort of in parallel is updating the building committee. But we think that that's a good approach. It is what we're doing right now for invoices. So just to kind of walk through this, it's not overly long, but I just want to sort of hit the categories, and I definitely want to hear your questions about this. So the monthly invoice package. So this is what we're doing right now. There's a city subgroup. So we look at we assemble, the owner's project manager assembles the invoice package. The architect has to sign off on it. We have to sign off on it. We bring it to Carl, Sean, and Jamie, and they look at it, let us know if we have any questions, and then it goes to the mayor for signature, and then on to the MSBA. Because the way the money is flowing is the city pays the bills, and then it's submitted to the MSBA, and then the MSBA reimburses their share on the invoicing. So that's sort of starting to go on a monthly basis. So contracts and amendments, this is pretty much what we did for our contract, for Mount Vernon Group's contract. And we're going to do something like this again as we move forward with, there's a couple of other pieces of this project that will get bid in later months. The big buckets are the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, for which we have a budget, but it's not part of the construction budget. And then also technology, which is not part of construction. It's sort of often the loose technology, the stuff that sort of comes in that allows the building to be kind of connected and provides the devices that a new school needs. So those contracts, when they come in, will come to you. We'll sort of share what the basis of them on, or we'll ask the city subgroup to sign off. The mayor will sign. So those things are, I think, pretty straightforward. Then if you look at the construction items, there are different kinds of contingency, you may remember. So we have a construction contingency, which is controlled by the owner. And that's in the case of either unforeseen conditions or changes to the contract that are needed. We have a soft cost contingency, which is if we need additional fees for anything. And so those two things are the same. So on a monthly basis, we'll be giving the committee an update, and there's a cycle that's been established for this. Change requests, typically when this language refers to construction. So in the event, and there will be construction change orders, we haven't We don't have any to show you tonight, but I would be very surprised if we got all the way through the demolition project without having something. There is, the contractor brings the change order to the team, same process, the OPM and the architects review it, pressure test it, push back if appropriate, and then that the consultant team brings it again to the city subgroup, and this committee gets a report out. There is also the possibility for things that are authorized on a time and materials basis. So you might, there might be an activity that needed to be undertaken, but you couldn't determine a cost. I mean, a sort of typical example for this, which fortunately we haven't run into yet, is if you ran into an area of contaminated soil that needed to be removed. So it's like, well, we know we need to get it out. We can't measure it without taking it out, and that's one of the many functions of the clerk who's on the site full time, is to track those quantities. And then we also built into this the possibility that there might be something that came up in the field that needed to be authorized because everybody was sort of standing, it was in the way of things moving ahead effectively. And we recommended to the city, and we're recommending to you, that the value of that be $20,000 or less. So for instance, there's something, there's a good example that came up on another job site recently where there was a piece of steel that was needed to be ordered right away in order for other things to happen. It was under $20,000. This project had the same threshold. So in that case, the design team in partnership with the OPM were able to authorize that and then sort of bring it to the city's approval group, the subgroup after that. So, and then just the last item here is prime contract change orders. So, and then this is the process that it sort of gets wrapped into a monthly update. So that's a lot of talking and a lot of words on the screen. So I'm going to just take this down and ask if folks have questions or comments about this.
I saw Mark's hand come up first, so we'll go with Lubold first. Mr. Lubold?
Okay, thanks. I don't know how like time critical some of these items might be. Do you ever put like or designee on, some of the three subgroup? If you have a couple of them out, and then things are just going to kind of languish, and I don't know, if there's time critical items, if that's appropriate or if it's been done in the past.
Yeah, so that's kind of this line item here at the bottom. This is this, yes, they do happen. It's important to sort of have a threshold under which the design team, OPM, can act on behalf of the city, because it's going to cost money in some other way if we don't, right? And we believe it's the right thing to do. So
yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that line item. It's more the three person subgroup. Like if Jamie Morrow was out on vacation,
I see.
Somebody else is on vacation. Now you can't even necessarily have a vote of those three.
I see. So you're thinking about if somebody was out, that you might say these
like if it said city of Hoyoke DPW director or designee, city administrator. And I don't know if that's done elsewhere.
Yeah.
Or
no, it absolutely is done.
That way, it just would, have backups for them and to be able to just keep things moving along and not tie things up. That's my only thought.
Which is actually
100%
of this to begin with, right? So that makes sense. Mr. Yost?
Yep, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, thanks. Margaret, I'm wondering if there'd also be a threshold where, if there's a large change order, if that would come before the committee. I mean, obviously larger than the 20,000, but say 40,000 or 50,000, something like that. Would that be something that would come before the committee to vote on?
Well, so this is where we're bringing this for your comment. It can, and in some communities it does. So this set of recommendations has been based on building on what we are already doing. So for instance, in some building committees approve every invoice. It seemed, I think that's crazy. I'll just say, have a couple of those where, the whole building committee has to sit and look at every invoice. And we did not think that was a good use of your time. So we established a city subgroup early on. It's certainly possible to bring things to this committee. It comes down to the committee's desire for responsibility here, because I'll say that if we're bringing, given the way this works, which is the OPM and the architect have come together to make a recommendation, we're not recommending it because we think that it's up for debate. Right. The reason that we're bringing it to the subgroup, for instance, is to make sure that they understand, to identify that they have questions. So it's not a situation where I would say what would be in the committee's hands would be, should we do it or not? If that makes sense as a response.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if it's a really large change, that should come before the committee, not all these little things.
Do you have a sense, Dave, of what you think is an appropriate threshold for that?
Well, I was thinking around 40 or 50,000.
I think if I was going to do that, I would make it a little higher. But anybody else have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I feel there could be a number of $40,000 and $50,000 increases. In the big scheme of things, that's really not a very large percentage. And certainly, with the procurement officer and building maintenance supervisor also being on this committee, if there's something they feel that could be, that should be brought before us, they could always bring it to us at the next meeting. We have a hard enough time, I think, getting a quorum with, without meetings or scheduled meetings. So unless we're going to have scheduled meetings where we're going to be able to, handle this and tackle this quickly, that threshold's kind of hard, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might, if
sorry.
we do that, we might need to allow for the scheduling of special meetings in order to be timely. Sorry, Erin, you were about to call on someone.
That's okay. I didn't realize that you were going to further comment. No problem at all. Mr. Soto?
Yeah, I would just have to agree with Mark. Personally, I don't think we should be approving invoices, but I do think it's a good idea to as a whole group, periodically get updates on where we're at budget wise from the team.
So the plan is to vote on the language proposed. So if somebody wanted to make an amendment, they could certainly do that. And then we could vote on an amendment before voting on it to approve it. If anybody has anything further to add, if not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve. Margaret, do you have a specific title or language you're looking for on this, or I can just approve the delegated authority metrics, right?
Yeah, delegated authority matrix as presented at the meeting tonight. And I just want to note that in each of these categories, we would be bringing an update on any change orders or contract changes to the building committee we will continue to have regular monthly meetings. That I can absolutely state for certain. We will not need to have meetings sort of in between the monthly established meetings unless there's a decision that we want the committee wants, as a group wants to sign off, because then I think we would have to leave open the possibility that we were scheduling additional meetings and getting a quorum to do that.
Okay, Mr. Lubold?
I just wanted to make an amendment that or designee be added after each
Or
of-
designee.
yeah, after each of the three
Yeah.
subgroup titles.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll do that. Unfortunately, my blue beam isn't working, or I do it on the screen right in front of you. So we'll add or designate to each of these.
okay.
Well, we have to
Yost?
vote on it first, I think.
Mr. Yost?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to amend it so that it comes before the committee if it's a very large amount. Probably the threshold I suggested was too low, but you know, I would want to see changes of hundreds of thousands without it coming before the committee. So I don't know if anybody has a sense of what, you know, what would be a reasonable threshold for that.
So, you know, I think a reasonable number here would be probably be $75,000 or $100,000. And I mean, I'm not okay with either one. This is about the committee's comfort level with being responsible for signing off.
Okay, so I think it's best to structure it like this. I think it's best to hear a motion on adopting what she presented. And then in discussion, we can amend the motion to make Mr. Lubold's change. And then if Mr. Yost wants to then amend it again and make a suggestion, then we would vote on that after. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the delegated authority of metrics as presented.
Make a
Anybody-
motion.
Thank you. If anybody wants to second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And so now on further discussion, Mr. Lubold?
I would like to amend it to add or designee after the three subgroup titles.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on the amendment and then vote, and then if Mr. Yost wants to make another amendment, we would vote on that and then vote on the full thing. Okay, so Mr. Lubold made a motion to amend. I need a second on that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. So right now we're voting to amend the language to add or designee. So all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Investigation President has been conducted, but these alleged tax crimes happened in Southern California.
Josh, are you voting? Or are you not voting? Oh. Okay, so I think we got,
All right,
that
so
looks
the
unanimous
amendment,
to me.
all right, so
Yep.
the amendment to add as designee is passed. And now back to the original motion. If there's further discussion, Mr. Yost?
Yes, I would propose an amendment that a change over 100,000 would be brought before the committee for a vote.
Okay, so on that motion, I would need a second. Hearing none? Or does somebody want to second the motion?
I was just gonna go second it. I couldn't find my mute button.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry,
Thank you. So I think that was I think that was Jessica. I'm not positive, but
not
Margaret.
Raina.
Oh, okay, thank you, Raina.
Raina, Yeah.
Before we vote, can Jackie and Jessica please put your hands down from the last vote? All right, thank you. Okay, so
we're good.
we're currently voting to amend the structure so that if there's a change over $100,000 to any order, it would come before the committee to be voted on. So if you agree to that, please raise your hand.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So it's not just for change orders, it would be also for approving invoices, right?
No, I think Dave's intention was to be only for change orders, right,
Oh,
Dave?
Change orders, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just for
Correct.
change
There's a
orders.
change, right? If something's expected to cost X and it's more than $100,000 difference, it would need to come to the committee for approval.
Come to
Aaron,
the committee first for approval.
Right. Does
Aaron,
someone-
can I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
What if the committee isn't planning to meet? How would we review that in a timely manner for that? Did I miss that?
Yeah, we would have to call a special meeting
Okay.
You
And-
might
and
have
have
to
a
call a
quorum,
special
right?
meeting,
and have a quorum.
and you need to
yes.
have a quorum.
Anything to
Yeah,
be voted on
exactly.
would need, I mean, you need a quorum to officially have
Yeah.
a meeting anyway. So
Okay.
yes, you would need a quorum. Okay.
So depending on when it happened, Jackie, we might or might not need an additional meeting. It's just, if the meeting that was already scheduled was timely, we'd be good. If it wasn't, if we just had a meeting and now we need within a week's time to get an okay on something, we might need to schedule a special meeting in order to manage that.
And also just for clarity, if you don't vote to approve his amendment, it's just allowing the appointed teams to vote to approve or not approve as have already been designated per the approval of this delegated authority matrix, okay? All right, so show of hands, please, if you support Mr. Yost's amendment. So that way this body would have to vote to approve any change order that is more than $100,000 or more.
So I see Josh, Jessica, Dave, and Raina. That's 4.
Yeah, that's
Is there
4 out
anybody
of
I missed?
10 people now.
Okay, so that motion fails. Okay, so back to the original motion. We're gonna be voting to approve the delegated authority metrics with the amendment to add as designated or designee, sorry.
Designate, yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Jamie, are you in? We can't hear you.
I just got here, so I'm not sure what the vote is. I missed the pre of it, so.
Oh,
You,
so
you can
really
abstain.
quickly, Jamie, yeah, you can abstain, but up at the top here, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can
Where
see
we
it.
identified the 3 folks. Mark recommended that we add or designate, right? So for instance, if someone was on a leave, they
Okay.
would be, they could designate. So that's what the vote is for.
Okay, yeah, I'm in. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that is everybody. So great.
Okay, great.
Motion
Thank you,
carried.
everyone. That
Thank
passes
you.
unanimously. So moving on to the next item is the second one that we'll need to vote on. So Margaret?
Well, I'm actually going to turn this over to Chris LeBlanc now because he has a slide about this. And while he's pulling it up, I'm just going to explain that as we spoke about at the last meeting, there are a handful, and in this case, I believe there are 6 items, 4 of which are going to be bid as part of the building project, where the district has asked us to specify something that's proprietary, and Chris is going to explain what those items are. But in this case, the MSBA asks that the building committee take a vote to confirm one way or the other that you concur with these recommendations. The recommendations are really coming from the district. So this isn't not something, these are some things that has come forward mostly in conversations with Sean and Whitney, but also with Christy Prosser. And a couple of them, Christy, you need me to pull that up?
Oh, I've got it.
You got it, okay. So I'll let Chris take it over from here, but there are 4 of the items on the left are part of the building, and 2 of them will be part of the later technology package.
Right. So, as with most projects, right, we want to make sure that some of the systems and equipment that may be used throughout the district are included in the new school. So we always engage the, you know, administration and or the facilities people as to, are there any systems that we want to make this school integrate with all the other schools, make things easier, make them more efficient, and level across the board. So when we spoke with Shauna Whitney and Christy Prosser, these 5 items came up. What we don't want to do is make things proprietary that does not allow for competitive bidding, right? All these items can be competitively bid. We don't and would not anticipate any type of, you know, objections to this with bidders, et cetera. No. So what we've done, in short, if we talked to Whitney, Sean, and Christy Prosser, and these are some of the items. So the fire alarm system equipment to be compatible with all the other schools would be Notifier. There are a number of systems out there. Notifier can be provided by any of the bidders, electrical contractors, et cetera. So this is one of the items, so that when they have to call, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but they have the same service company if there's troubles. Fire alarms are very sensitive, and the service contracts are usually better if you've got the same system throughout the school. Another item would be large format removable keyways. So in the door hardware, when the facilities people are maintaining, managing, and keying their buildings accordingly. For example, Sean or one of the other head facilities people may have a key that can get into every door, every building, as would a custodian within their school. So what we want to do is match the key system that's currently used throughout the school district. This way, you know, you don't have keys for all these other schools, but then the new school is completely different, and we've got an issue there. One of the other more important items that not only came from Sean and Whitney, but Anthony talked about was a surveillance network, right? So a Vigilon, making sure that the surveillance network, again, is compatible and level across the entire district. We're not bringing in new software, et cetera, for people to learn, bring up, use, and integrate. So this will make the surveillance network, you know, compatible throughout the district. The next 2 items were recommendations from Christy Prosser on the technology side. So all 5 of these items are proprietary, but these 2 will not be part of the bid package that's going out with the general construction. These will be purchased in the technology procurement package somewhere midway through construction when we start getting into that. Computers, switches, printers, and all that kind of stuff that's going in the new school. So the first one is by the company Extreme. It's for the technology switches that go in the technology closets. Extreme is the current product that's being used in the schools. So this is one of the things they've recommended. And then the wireless access points that will be installed in the school. This school will be fully wireless for people to use with computers, phones, etc. Extreme is the other manufacturer. They currently use these systems in the school district. So they probably have maintenance contracts with them, and we want to continue that, make it efficient, not only for maintenance, but for costs as well. And then the last item is StructureWare. It's the BMS software. So BMS is the building management system. This is the software that's going to control all of the building systems, the HVAC, heating and cooling, the plumbing systems, the pumps, etc. So StructureWare is currently being used, and Christy, Whitney, and Sean indicate that this should be continued in this project as well. So there's really only 5. It's not a large number. It's fairly typical of projects. So what we are going to do is we're going to put this in the bid documents and tell the contractors that if you're bidding a fire alarm system, this is in fact the system that was approved by the building committee in the district. MSBA does acknowledge this. So we want to make sure that this is what is provided to the contract, and it kind of gets us out of the or equal bid envelope that Mass General Law requires. So any questions on these 5 items? Anything to add, Sean?
Oh, the only thing I do want to add is, so having all of these adds consistency across all the schools, like you were saying. So you're not just having one school that's the brand new school, but it's also an oddball. So we're incorporating all of the things that are used by every team within the district, and then they just flow right into the new school. So there's no new training or anything. Like, yeah, there'll be some new training on some stuff, but basically you just have that nice fluidity between the current schools and then the new school.
Mark?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. On some of these items, let's just say we need 100 switches for the sake of conversation. Is there any opportunity to order like 105 so there's 5 switches in an inventory? You
That would
know,
depend on budget, you know, where we are, because, for example, this will come out of technology. And we can certainly pose that question to Christie as to the readily available. From our conversations, these are readily available. They're common.
okay, that was my
easily-
fear because, you know, where I work, we still do have some issues getting electronics from certain vendors. And I'd hate to, you know, we have to order a switch and it's 6 months out and it's, you know, kind of a pain. But if those are all pretty readily available, that's a whole nother question. So,
Yeah, and typically, Mark, these switches are expandable in the sense that if you've got 100 ports of technology lines coming in, we're going to make sure the switches can handle, you know, 150
110.
ports.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks.
Well,
But Mark, I think it's a great question, and I do think that when we take up, I'm going to definitely try to hang on to this spot, but I want you to do too. So when we bring back to you the detail of the technology budget and the furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget, we should talk about this issue. And there's certain, the MSBA does not, you know, they give you a certain amount they'll pay for, and then everything above it is on you. But it certainly would help with making sure that there was, you know, what amounts to attic stock for certain items that the district's likely to need. So, does anybody else have a question about this?
I was just going to say, I'd touch on, like you were asking about, Mark. The great thing about doing proprietary items is a lot of this stuff we would have either in stock, right? Or we already have, or we can get them readily available because we use them constantly. So say a switch does go down, Chrissy might already have another switch to replace that on the shelf, because that's what we use across the board on everything. Same as a wireless access point. She might be able to just pull one off the shelf because we already consider those kinds of things throughout the year, and we have backups and we have extras along the way.
Okay. Well, so let's do this, because we need to take a vote ask you to take a vote on the proprietary items, and we also need to ask you to take a vote on the value engineering items. And then we will be over with the votes, and we can give you some great updates on the project. So,
Do you want
Chris,
us
if
to
you could
vote
take
on
that down.
proprietary before reviewing value engineering?
I think it would be better if we did it as two separate votes. Yeah.
Okay,
It'll just be more straightforward. So, you know, the motion would be, if someone wants to make it, to approve the use of the proprietary items that are listed on the slide as part of the bid package. So
All right.
moved. That sounded like who spoke?
It was Mark.
Mark.
Well, you just need a
Okay,
second
so
on
Mark
that,
motion.
folks?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. Any
Jackie.
discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Everybody show hands if you approve. Voting yes is approving the proprietary items to stay with the district's plans.
Anthony, are you in?
Yeah, his hand's up.
Anthony's in. Okay. Yep, we got unanimous.
All right, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. So the next item we're going to talk about briefly, same slide. If everybody could take their hands down, we got one more round of this to do. So,
You have contagion? I mean, I feel like I got it from Zoe and the kids.
Really?
Why
are you
guys all sick? Yeah, they were all sick.
Hey, Jamie, can you
Muted,
mute?
honey. Thanks.
Um,
If
so-
Jackie and Anthony can put your hands down, please, before we vote again. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
So
ahead,
I'll
Margaret.
let Chris describe this, but I mean, in a nutshell, the MSBA requires, and I think it's good practice, that we have some possible cost opportunities for cost reduction in the event that when we get our bids back, we are over the construction budget. So Chris is going to walk us through the short list of items that the teams come up with for your consideration. And again, you would need to vote and say, we agree that these are the appropriate items to be considered.
All
So
right.
Chris, you want to talk about those?
Sure. So as Margaret mentioned, MSBA recommends that all design teams and communities have a list of value engineering items, and it's primarily to do one thing, and that's to protect the bid should things kind of come in unexpectedly. So given this is a model school, and as everybody here I think knows and understands, it's a very efficient, cost-effective school. It is not full of marble tile, etc. It's it's got some really nice finishes. So the items we're looking at, some have a fairly decent value, and some have just a smaller value. But again, we have to look at it. So item number one is alternate number one. It's the Dingle site development. This has the largest value, about $1.2 to $1.6 million. That's why it is in fact an alternate. It'll be an ad alternate if the bids come in well and the contractor wants to do all the work. He'll also provide us with a good bid for the ad alternate. So that would be item number one. The second, ground face concrete block. In the gymnasium on the corridor side, we have, instead of a painted concrete block, we've got a concrete block that has a nice ground finish on one side. It's polished. It provides a much nicer, durable, maintenance-free finish. So it's efficient, but there is a cost savings to just going back to a normal painted block, which may have to be painted every so often. The savings there is probably $70,000 or so. Not a great amount, but there's some value to it. Another item would be to reduce the tile scope on the walls, right? So in the toilet rooms, we have ceramic tile on the floors and walls up to about 7 feet. That helps provide a nice maintenance-free toilet room, right? Can be washed down, easily cleaned, etc. We also have some wall tile in the corridors for the same purpose. We find it to be very efficient, useful. Kids with backpacks banging into it tend to scuff painted walls. So we typically would put tile on the walls up again to 7 feet. And I believe for those who had visited either Ludlow or Marlborough, the model school, those schools had this design built in. If we were to reduce that tile scope maybe down to 4 feet or even eliminate it, the savings there again is not significant. It could be anywhere in the $30,000 to $50,000 range. When we look at it, what does that translate down the road to maintenance of painting and whatnot? But again, it's a value. We could reduce some landscape scope. We've done that already in our initial design. But maintenance and things like that, we could reduce and save $100,000, $200,000 maybe, and minimizing some of the trees and plantings and just provide a more maintenance-free landscape. And then the last one, revise the granite curb to an asphalt curb. Granite curb's much more durable. It lasts long, doesn't get beat up by the plows, etc. It's certainly a nicer finish. But if we needed to down the road and bids were kind of tight, this is something that we could make a change on and save some money. So these are kind of the 5 items without affecting building quality. without affecting a lot of maintenance, without affecting, the value of the project. These are things we've gone over with our consultants. We've talked about it with Margaret and her team. These are the recommendations we would make. Does not affect any of the program. Questions?
Anybody have any thoughts or questions you'd like to, Mr. Yost?
Yeah, Chris, that last item, the granite curbs, what was the value on that?
So the value on that, David, is somewhere, I want to say it was around 100,000.
100,000.
Yeah.
All right, and I want to ask more about the first one, the large one, the dingle site. Now that was developing both a road and a walkway.
Yes, and some plantings.
Would you have a separate, be able to break it out if it was just the walkway?
We do not at this point. The problem with that, David, is even if it's just a walkway or just a road, there's still some significant grading and site work that would have to be done down there. So I think if you took out the road, there's not as much savings. We can certainly look at it. The problem is we're going out to bid in 2 weeks, but we're hopeful. So if you want us to look at it, we can.
I just want to add the other problem with the dingle as opposed to these other items is that we have to go back through the permitting process. So when we went to the planning department for their review, they really couldn't wrap their heads around doing an alternate. So we have permitted what we want to do, and were we to have to do an alternate that took the dingle out, I think there would be a delay because we need to go back to planning to sort of kind of give them an update and get them to agree. And I think Dave, it would, at that point, we would reopen the question of how much scope we were going to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be something that we could turn around quickly if we had to do that. Whereas the other items, you can sort of imagine, they're fairly easy to include as alternates because you say, well, give us a price for doing this rather than that, right? And you don't really have to stop the bidding process that you're in if you do them. So we understand that no one wants to do alternate number one, but realistically, it's a really good practice to have something on the table should the bids come in significantly higher than where we are projecting them that allows you to keep moving with the project.
I need to clarify because being it's an alternate, it technically isn't on the table if the bids are high anyway. So I don't understand how an alternate could also be like they want us to remove it as an alternate. Is that what this is suggesting?
No, it's currently. Go ahead, Mark.
You go ahead, Chris.
So right now, the work in the dingle for alternate number one is identified on the documents as a separate scope. It's
right.
There's a line around it that says this work should be bid separately.
Right.
So we're going to have the building package and the general thing, and then we're going to have the dingle work bid separately. So if the basic work, they're going to provide a price for two. So if the base bid for the building and the needed site work is below our budget and we have another $1.5 million room, then we can accept the dingle work. But if that initial bid comes in and we're right against our budget limit, we don't have enough room for that extra 1.2 million work, we don't have to accept it.
Right,
That
but
work
I
won't get
thought
done.
that was already clear. So I'm confused as to why or how it factors in here. Like if I was to approve this list, what am I approving with regards to the dingle? Are we saying it's no longer a bid alternate at all? That's what I'm confused about because from my understanding, it goes out to bid, they're bidding this, they're bidding this. If we have enough money here, we're gonna do this. So what is putting it here do is what I'm confused. The other things I understand. If the budget is high, we'll use this concrete instead. If the budget is high, we'll reduce the tile. But we already said if the budget is high, we can't do the dingle. So I don't understand why we're saying it again. It seems like
it is a redundancy, Erin. You're absolutely
Okay.
right.
You're
I
not
just want to
crazy.
make sure that
It's,
this isn't suggesting that we're not bidding the dingle.
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's just working. It happens to be on both lists.
Okay.
But in effect, it does the same thing. It allows us to not accept it if the bids are high. Just like it would allow us to change the tile if the bids are high. We could tell the contractor, well, instead of running the tile up to 7 feet, run it up to 5 and give us a credit
Right.
for the.
But just to
right?
confirm, as an alternate already, it allows us to not accept it if the bids are high.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something in
No.
those layering conversations. So
Well,
then
and,
the next
and
thought would be
just to be clear, Aaron, let me just add. So we feel the same way you do. Like to us, like we said to the MSBA, like this is what we're going to do if we need to, and they were like, no, give us your list of value engineering. So we're sort of recycling something, I would say, that's already embedded in the approach to the project because we need to check this box with the MSBA. And we decided to come up with a set of other items. Again, it's just good practice to have a plan B. So
it just seems like we already had that. So I was just for clarifying. And then I want the dingle to happen. So if it's a minor delay because we have to work around an extra meeting.
No. We're permitting the work in the dingle. If we had to take it out, yes. If we had to take it out, we would have to go back to them.
Oh, okay. Again, clarifying. Thank you very much for explaining because it made it I wasn't understanding. Okay. So regarding the other items, I mean, I would like to hear from facility maintenance on how they feel taking items away that ease maintenance would feel for the extent of the project. So that would be my only other question I'd like more information on before say like approving or disapproving. Cause to Chris's point, if we do asphalt curbs, but they get beat up in 3 years and we have to replace them, is that really cost effective in the long run versus doing granite curbs? But I think I'm hearing your point, Margaret, that this is just very much checking a box and not necessarily things that will end up happening. I think she said I'm right, but she's on mute. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns or things they need to ask about this?
Dave has his hand up.
Yeah,
Oh,
so we'd be
sorry.
voting on this as a package. We can't separate out the different items because some I'm in favor with and some not so much. It's just a yes or no on all or nothing. Is that what we're voting on?
No, I would say if someone wants to make a motion to take some of these off the lists, or that's fine. I would just suggest that the committee needs to sort of come to a majority agreement about this list.
Mr. Lubo?
The only thing I wanted to say is, this is just like a level of safety.
Right.
If the bids came in and they were, 500,000 over, these would be places we could look to cut. It wouldn't be maybe all the granite curb, but maybe in the back of the building where nobody sees, it just allows us a place where you might be able to cut to come within budget. And I think, with what we've come under now and the more we're getting from the state in terms of reimbursement, if we're over now, wow. So I feel we'd be pretty okay with these items.
Okay, so seeing no further discussion, unless anybody has anything else they'd like to add, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommended value engineering items.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. A
I'll
second?
second. Oh,
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, raise your hands, please, if you're in favor of approving the value engineering items.
Mark, is your hand up? Dave's hand is not up. Dave, are you abstaining?
No, he could just be.
I'll vote no on this.
Sorry?
He's gonna vote no.
I'll vote no
Oh, no.
on this.
Okay. So it looks like
So
we
all
got
the yeses down, please, and then
yeses down.
we'll see if there's any no's. All right, any opposed? Go ahead and raise your hand.
Okay.
Record's sake. Thank you. The motion passes, I believe 7-1, unless I missed something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 9-1, because there's 10 of us. All right, then, moving along. Let me get my screen adjusted here so I can see my agenda.
So I just want to say, I think what we should talk about next, and we want to give you some updates about other aspects of the project. I think what I'd like to pivot to is just some good news, which Petros can summarize, which is how well we are doing with this pre-qualification process. And the reason that this is important is that if you get a really good response in terms of people who have stepped up to pre-qualify, firms that have stepped up to pre-qualify, it means you're going to get a lot of competition in the bid process, in a nutshell. And I want to give a huge shout out to Mount Vernon Group, so both Chris and Frank, I know Frank was here earlier, as well as my team. Even I made a phone call, but we've kind of been besieging people to pre-qualify. We have a really good list, which suggests we're going to have a very competitive bid. So, Petros, maybe you could give just a little bit of a summary of what that looks like.
Absolutely. Thanks, Margaret. Hi, everybody. So we are currently undergoing the pre-qualification process, as Margaret noted. Originally, we had the deadline for pre-qualifying bidders due last Wednesday. Realized maybe it was time of the year. We were kind of having a hard time getting bidders on board. So internally, we made a lot of phone calls, really upticked our outreach efforts, and the deadline to pre-qualify was last night. All in all, for the filed sub bids, the trades, we have 76 pre-qualifying bidders on board right now. We've already begun the process of reviewing. We've completed 2 trades to date. To this point, everybody's been pre-qualified. The list is a really stellar list. A lot of kind of the same cast of characters that we've seen in the past. Chris helped a lot. We referenced his Chapin Elementary School project in Ludlow and got about 90% of the bidders from that project who've previously built a model school to pre-qualify for this one. So they have a familiarity with the team, with the design. We're very excited about this group. And then to top it all off, we had 7 general contractors pre-qualify, a really good list of GCs. So, this was great news for the city, really pumped. And we'll work to get the pre-qualification evaluations complete in the next few weeks. Any questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just curious, percentage of like local, local being within like, say, 50 miles.
Really, a really good bunch. Springfield, Holyoke, Chicopee, a lot of local close by contractors. Chris, you can speak to the list a little bit better than I can, but really pleased to know that a lot of kind of the local outfits are coming out for this one.
For the GCs too?
GCs, too, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we have Daniel O'Connell and Son, they're local, Fontaine Brothers.
Yep.
And we've worked with a few others from the eastern and middle part of the state. Aят and King, local for tile, flooring. Sullivan and Aries in Holyoke for masonry. So there's a lot of projects. When we looked at it, going through it with Petros and I think Mount Vernon Group's worked with probably 95% of them on various projects. All have done very well. They've done a good job for us. And as Petros said, you got 70, 75 plus bidders. That's gonna really put the competition, see who can be the low one.
Yeah, I just asked because if in the end of the day, if there's two bids that are the same and one's from Boston and one's from Springfield, we want to try to hire local and keep the money in the Western Mass economy if we can.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to Eastern Mass, but
I want to just show you something that I really like. So Mount Vernon Group's estimator, Seamus Fennessy, always includes this diagram in his estimates, the sort of front piece in the estimate. Can everybody see this? And it's the effect of competition on prices. And this is why this is so important. So you can see 2 bids, 4 bids, 6 bids, 8 bids. So yeah, it makes a difference. So thank you, Seamus, because I've stolen this diagram now a bunch of times to explain to people why this thing that they don't usually even see going on is really, really important. So, okay. So, and then we need to give an update on demolition. Chris?
Sure.
Petros, who wants to take the lead there?
Chris, you were most recently out there today. You spoke with Lead. You might, I mean, I can keep it as well, but
Yeah, so I went out to the site today, met with Lee, who's part of Answer's team. He's the on-site rep. Walked around. I'll share some photos that I have of the work that's going on. So the contractors worked 12 out of the last 13 days. Sunday was the only one. They're working 10-hour days. They're certainly moving forward while they've got the weather. The building is coming down pretty good. They're going to start doing some of their site prep work. I'd say at least 10 to 12 trucks are coming and going in that site every day, if not more, with demolition debris. They're taking the loom off site and stockpiling it at a local landscape yard, and they'll bring that back when they're ready to install it. They're preparing the dingle work down below. So what I'd like to do is just kind of share you some of the site package. So I've got 7 slides here, took 7 relatively decent pictures. On the left-hand side, we'll kind of give you the perspective of what's going on. On the right, I kind of gave you an aerial view of the school and where we took the picture. So for example, this one was taken kind of like near the end
Chris,
of...
we can't see your picture, your screen.
Oh, yeah. Let me share that again.
Margaret, I'm loving your cat right now.
He's loving having me home. So
So the first one was taken kind of like at the end of McIntosh Terrace, right at the walkway. Looks towards where the gym used to be, which is this whole vacant area. That is completely gone and been hauled away. There's some miscellaneous metal scrap. They've torn up a lot of the concrete walks, foundations, and the pavement in this area. If I go to the next one, it's taken from the opposite side, the corner of Crozier Field. Again, gives you perspective of what's going on. The excavator in the background is removing some of the stairs and stuff from the courtyard area. This view is taken, item number 3 on the right. So you can see from the aerial, this was all vegetated. That's all been cleared. You can see how some of that 3-story wing near the high school is starting to come down. They've taken the exterior walls off and they're working their way around.
Today.
Yeah. So this area, once this wing has been brought down, the site contractor will come in and they'll start bringing in fill to bring this area up. There's 15,000 cubic yards of fill that'll come in here to elevate the grade. A shot from that upper area down to the dingle. We've got a retention area that's going to be done down here. So they've cleared the trees and stumps and the brush. They're preparing this. They're maintaining the road that accesses HG&E's equipment down at the end. All this, once it's done, will be planted, seed. There are some plantings on the slope, so it'll all be cleaned up As we come around to the lower area, along Beach Street, the 3-story, you can see the workers kind of spraying down and misting the area with construction dust. But they're, at this point, on this side, taking down the exterior wall. But as we go around the corner, this is as you come up the dingle, from the high school. They have completely gotten into the center part of the building. So right now, this excavator is just tearing things down and creating piles. There was a truck that was backed in here earlier that they were loading up and taking out. So you can see some of the foundation debris, a lot of metal, and they're just going to town, quite frankly. They're doing a good job. Talking with Lee, we expect maybe about another 3 to 4 weeks of demolition before all the structures are down. This gives you a view from the Chapin Street area between the two octagon-shaped buildings. So you can see there's another truck here with another excavator loading them up. Once it's loaded, you can see the plastic drape. That plastic gets folded over. They seal it, they put tags on it, identifying it, and it's hauled off to the various places where they're going to dispose of it. So it's moving along pretty good. As you can see from the aerial, this is where they're currently working on the east side. The gym cafeteria is down. They'll start excavating here. They've got to take out the fill and bring in structural fill. They're going to start creating the pad where the new school is going in this area. Any questions? What I'm going to try and do is get the drone back working. I was going to take it out there today, but hasn't been used in a while. The batteries are dead, so that opportunity didn't happen. But in the coming weeks, I'd like to I'll get that going, and then not only during this phase, but I like to use it during the building phase to create videos to show you progress as each month goes by. And then that's something you can post, to keep the public in the know. And then at the end, you have a nice package, see the progress to the finished product.
All righty. So Chris, Petros, what else do we need to give the folks an update on?
I think that's it. We're continuing to do the contractor support. We're doing our final coordination for the documents. Those documents will be ready for the bidders, and we'll release them Thursday afternoon on the 30th. Planning board approval has been obtained. We're just in the final day or two, couple days of the appeal process. So another hurdle. We should be ready to go when the time comes.
Yeah. I will say the only thing that could change our current bidding calendar is we are going to take a look at what else is bidding at the same time. Because, it's better for, it's not good for any project to be piled up on top of, a couple of others of sort of comparable or larger size. So if we find that there's a bit of a pileup, we might move the bid date off a few days. It's always good to sort of snap up the bidders who just missed on the last one and have sharper pencils. So at the moment, the plan is the plan, but we like to adjust for for other things that we can't see. So I think that's it. We got through the agenda.
Not quite. So I'm seeing discuss possibility of school-owned solar capabilities. We didn't go over that.
We did not. That is correct.
Right, Margaret. I think I just added that into the agenda because I know that was a topic that Mark had emailed about.
That Mark brought up. Mark, I will tell you, I think it's a really interesting question. We haven't done any exploration of it, but do you want to say a few words about your thoughts about it?
I was only looking at, the additional amounts that the state was going to kick in. And I know we talked about solar early on. And if it had battery storage, that the G&E would be able to give the schools even a better rate. And since the roof is going to be designed to handle solar panels in the future, would it be worth starting to look at it now? That was my only thought.
I think it's a really interesting question. I will tell you, because we talked about this at least one meeting. You know, the preliminary conversations with HG&E, the most recent conversations have been that because Holyoke's electrical rate is so low,
Right.
HG&E doesn't consider that they're going to get interested vendors, which makes sense to me just as a business proposition.
Well, that would only be if it was owned by somebody else. But if it was
That's right.
owned
No, that's
by,
exactly right. If it was
by
owned by
the
the
school.
city, it would be. And I will also tell you, we're in Amherst. I'm working in Amherst. Amherst passed a net zero bylaw that says not only shall all public buildings be net zero going forward, the city must own the solar, and it's
Right.
for exactly the reason that you raised, which is if there is the capital to buy the solar, it's a much better deal for the municipality to own it, as long as they're prepared to manage it.
Yeah,
So-
well, all the benefits go back to the city and not to the third party. The city gets to sell the, renewable energy credits to New England Power Pool.
Yeah.
And those could be vital, so, and it doesn't have to be, part of this bid, but is it something
Yeah.
to maybe look at for the schools, I guess, to
So
take advantage of that?
I would maybe suggest, seeing as we do still have a design subcommittee and we're not meeting again till January, maybe the design subcommittee tries to, or the building subcommittee, one of the subcommittees, have a meeting to discuss this a little further, maybe have somebody from the G&E, maybe also involve the mayor, because obviously we would need to, like you said, be spending some of the surplus. So maybe that's something a subcommittee can do a little bit more investigating work on, and then bring it back to the full committee for a more hearty discussion.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I agree. I mean, it does need more discussion. I have not wanted, to be honest, to load Mount Vernon Group up with anything else, because their main focus has really been on making sure that we have a good coordinated drawing set, because that pays great dividends during the construction process.
No,
But
100%.
we'll pick that up
All right.
and have a further discussion about it.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. And then the other thing is an update from school committee on the naming process. So I did connect with Jaddy Alette, who chairs the committee. It was sent to subcommittee, and her next subcommittee meeting is December 13th. So they'll be discussing it again at that meeting. The mayor has sent them some information around Dean and who he is, and things like that. So I did let them meaning her and our current vice chair Mildred know, as discussed, Margaret, that you were hoping to have an answer by spring. I said, March, April, ideally. So the committees are working on it. All right. Anybody, I don't see anything else on our agenda. I think I covered everything, unless Margaret or Aaron or anybody else has anything else they feel needs to go over. A reminder, we're not going to meet in December. So if you hold your tongue now, you're holding it till the new year. Yes, Mr. Yost.
Yeah, one thing very important. I want to wish my grandson Wilmer David a happy 10th birthday today. A student at Ian White.
Happy birthday. Awesome. All right. Well, seeing nothing else, everybody, I hope you have a great holiday week next week. Enjoy the short week. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, and don't forget that Thanksgiving Day football game.
Yeah. Is it home this year?
Yes, it is.
Yay. Awesome. I know my daughter's excited for the pep rally. So.
Nice.
All right. On the motion, I'll take a second.
Second.
Jackie.
That was Jackie, and all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Aye.
assuming for the discussion. All right, unanimous. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time. If we're not meeting again till January, geez, enjoy the new year as well. If anybody has anything they need updated or discussions, please email myself, Margaret, or Aaron, and we'll see you then. Thanks, y'all.
All right, thank you.
Great holiday.